In 2008, the United States government made a decision.
Paulson would spend
in his face as he stepped to the microphone.
Today, we are taking decisive actions to protect the U.S. economy. We regret having to take these actions.
Banks were drowning, holding assets that were suddenly worthless, and instead of letting them collapse, the government stepped in. $700 billion injected directly into the banking system, the largest financial rescue in human history. Politicians called it a bailout, economists called it necessary, but here is the part nobody explained properly. That money did not come from a vault. It did not come from taxes. It was created, fresh, new, out of nothing, and it went directly to the institutions that caused the crisis in the first place. Meanwhile, ordinary families lost their homes, their savings, their retirements. No bailout for them. That was 2008, but the system that made it possible, that system never changed. And right now, the exact same mechanics are at play, only bigger, much bigger. A few days ago, I uploaded a video explaining why governments borrow money they can technically create themselves. One comment in particular caught my attention. Americans don't save and walk away from debt and want forgiveness, so expect hyperinflation eventually. And then he suggested I make a video explaining what happens when debt is forgiven and how it affects banks. He also mentioned interest rates destroying money, the bond market breaking after reserve requirements were removed, the Fed being legally banned from buying directly from Treasury, and something called financial repression. That one comment contained at least 5 major economic concepts, each one deserving its own detailed explanation. So here is what I have decided. This will not be one video. This will be a series. 5 videos, each covering one core concept. This is where we are right now. Today, we will understand how debt cancellation actually works inside the banking system, where the money goes, who pays the real cost, and why forgiveness is never as free as it sounds. Here, we will explore a strange truth. Interest payments require money that was never created. The system runs on a permanent deficit. And if new debt stops flowing, the entire structure deflates. The Federal Reserve is legally prohibited from buying bonds directly from the US Treasury. This law exists for a very specific reason, but there is a workaround, and banks profit from it every single day. Interest payments on US government debt now exceed $1 trillion per year. This is not a projection. This is happening right now. We will examine the mathematics of a debt spiral and how close the United States actually is to losing control. When governments cannot pay their debts honestly, they pay them dishonestly, through inflation, through forced bond purchases, through quietly stealing from savers. This has a name, financial repression, and it has already started. Now, let us begin with video 1. What really happens when debt is forgiven? In the last 5 years, debt forgiveness has moved from the fringes of economic discussion to the center of political debate. Student loan forgiveness in the United States, COVID-era business loan cancellations, mortgage relief programs in multiple countries. The conversation always focuses on the borrower. Should they be forgiven? Do they deserve relief? Is it fair? But almost nobody asks the mechanical question. When a debt disappears, where does it actually go? Who absorbs the loss? And what happens to the system that created that debt in the first place? Today, we will answer these questions, not with ideology, not with politics, just with mechanics.
Before we understand debt forgiveness, we must understand debt creation. And this is where most people carry a fundamental misunderstanding. Most people believe banks work like this. You deposit 100 rupees. The bank keeps your money in a vault. When someone needs a loan, the bank takes your deposit and lends it to them. Simple, logical, and completely wrong. Here is how it actually works. When a bank approves a loan, it does not check a vault. It does not move existing money from one place to another. It simply types numbers into a computer. The borrower's account shows a new balance, and just like that, new money exists. This is not conspiracy. This is not theory. This is how the system is designed. The Bank of England published a paper in 2014 explicitly stating, commercial banks create money in the form of bank deposits by making new loans. When you take a loan, the bank creates a deposit. When you repay the loan, that deposit is destroyed. Money is born from lending. Money dies through repayment. This is the heartbeat of the modern financial system. Now let us look at what this means for bank balance sheets. Every bank maintains a balance sheet. 2 columns, assets on one side, liabilities on the other. Let me show you what these columns contain. Liabilities, what the bank owes. When you deposit money in a bank, you expect to withdraw it later. That deposit is the bank's liability. It is money the bank owes you. If every customer demanded their deposits tomorrow, the bank would need to pay. Assets, what the bank owns. When the bank gives someone a loan, that loan is an asset. It is money the bank expects to receive, with interest, over time. The loan itself is valuable. It generates income. It can be sold to other institutions. It appears on the balance sheet as something the bank owns. Now here is the critical relationship. In a healthy bank, assets equal liabilities. What the bank owns matches what the bank owes. The balance sheet balances. This is the foundation of banking stability. And this is exactly what debt forgiveness disrupts.
Let us walk through a simple example. A bank has issued loans worth 100 billion rupees. Those loans sit on the asset side of the balance sheet. On the liability side, the bank owes depositors 100 billion rupees. The balance sheet is even. The bank is solvent. Now imagine the government announces a forgiveness program. 10% of all loans are canceled. Borrowers celebrate. Politicians take credit. But inside the bank, 10 billion rupees in assets have just vanished. The loans are gone, but the deposits remain. The bank now owes 100 billion, but only owns 90 billion. This is called insolvency. The bank's liabilities exceed its assets. On paper, the bank is bankrupt. Now multiply this across an entire banking system. Hundreds of banks, trillions in loans. A forgiveness program that seemed compassionate has just triggered a systemic crisis. When a debt is forgiven, the borrower's burden disappears, but the loss does not vanish. It transfers. The question is, to whom? There are only a few possibilities. Possibility 1, bank shareholders. The first layer of protection is bank equity. Shareholders invested capital. That capital can absorb losses. But shareholder equity is usually thin. Banks operate with high leverage. For every 1 rupee of capital, they might hold 10 or 15 rupees in assets. Shareholder equity can absorb small losses. Large-scale forgiveness overwhelms it immediately. Possibility 2, depositors. If shareholder equity is exhausted, the next layer is deposits. This happened in Cyprus in 2013. Banks failed. Deposits above 100,000 euros were forcibly converted to bank shares. Ordinary people lost savings overnight. This is called a bail-in. It is legal, it is planned for, and most depositors have no idea it exists. Possibility 3, taxpayers. If depositors cannot absorb the loss, governments step in. This is the bailout, public money used to rescue private institutions. The 2008 financial crisis followed this model. Trillions of dollars committed across the United States, Europe, and beyond. The borrowers were relieved, the banks were rescued, and the public paid. Possibility 4, currency holders, inflation. Sometimes the government does not use tax revenue. It creates new money to fill the gap. This dilutes the value of all existing currency. Prices rise, purchasing power falls. Everyone holding that currency pays through reduced real wealth. This is the most hidden cost of all. No bill arrives, no tax is collected, yet everyone becomes slightly poorer. Here is where the system becomes truly strange. Remember how money is created. Banks issue loans. Loans create deposits. Deposits are money. Now follow this logic carefully. When a loan is repaid, the deposit is destroyed.
money disappears. When a loan is forgiven, the loan disappears, but the money that was created from it remains in circulation. The borrower spent that money. It is out in the economy, paying for goods, sitting in other accounts, circulating. So after forgiveness, the bank has lost its asset, but the money it created still exists. This creates an imbalance. Too much money, not enough real assets backing it. The result is inflationary pressure. Not immediately, not dramatically, but persistently. This is why large-scale debt forgiveness always carries an inflation risk, not because politicians choose to print money, but because the money was already printed during the lending. Forgiveness simply removes the mechanism that would have destroyed it.
This is not theoretical. History offers clear evidence. Example 1. Latin American debt crisis, 1980s. Throughout the 1970s, Western banks lent aggressively to Latin American countries. When interest rates rose in the 1980s, these countries could not repay. Massive debt restructuring followed. Some debts were forgiven, some were converted. The result? Western banks required bailouts. Latin American economies suffered a lost decade. Inflation in some countries exceeded 1,000% annually. Example 2. Jubilee 2000, African debt relief. In the year 2000, wealthy nations agreed to cancel debts owed by the poorest countries. Approximately $100 billion forgiven. The moral case was strong, but the banks that had issued those loans needed compensation. Wealthy country taxpayers covered the losses. The forgiveness was real, but so was the cost. It was simply transferred. Example 3. U.S. student loan forgiveness debate. In the United States, student loan debt exceeds $1.7 trillion. Various forgiveness proposals have been debated. Some limited forgiveness has occurred. Each time, the same question emerges: who absorbs the loss? If government-held loans are forgiven, the federal budget takes the hit, either through reduced revenue projections or through direct monetary creation. Either way, the cost does not disappear, it transfers.
Let me summarize what we have learned. Point 1. Banks create money when they issue loans. Point 2. Those loans are bank assets. Point 3. When loans are forgiven, bank assets vanish. Point 4. If enough assets vanish, banks become insolvent. Point 5. Insolvency must be resolved somehow. Point 6. Resolution options include shareholder losses, depositor losses, taxpayer bailouts, or inflation. Point 7. None of these options is free. Point 8. The money created during lending remains in circulation even after forgiveness. Point 9. This creates inflationary pressure over time. Point 10. Debt forgiveness is never actually forgiveness, it is transfer. Someone always pays. The only question is who, and whether that person knows they are paying.
Now, let us return to the comment that started this discussion. Our subscriber said, Americans don't save and walk away from debt and want forgiveness, so expect hyperinflation eventually. Is he correct? Partially. The United States does have a low savings rate. Americans do have a more relaxed attitude toward bankruptcy and debt default compared to many other cultures. And yes, there is political pressure for various forms of forgiveness. But hyperinflation is not inevitable. It depends on scale. It depends on how losses are absorbed. It depends on trust in the currency. However, the mechanism he describes is real. If forgiveness becomes widespread, if losses are absorbed through money creation, if this happens repeatedly, then inflationary pressure builds. And if that pressure is not managed, confidence cracks. And when confidence in a currency cracks, things can move very quickly.
We are not at hyperinflation, but we are on a path where the risks increase with each cycle.
Debt forgiveness sounds compassionate, and sometimes it is necessary. Individuals trapped in unpayable obligations, countries crushed under colonial-era debts, students sold a promise that did not materialize. There are real human beings behind these numbers, but the system does not care about compassion. It cares about balance sheets. And when we forgive debt without understanding the mechanics, we do not eliminate suffering. We relocate it. From borrowers to shareholders, from shareholders to depositors, from depositors to taxpayers, from taxpayers to everyone holding the currency. Each transfer is less visible than the last. Each transfer feels less like a cost, until one day, the currency itself begins to lose meaning. And at that point, there is nothing left to transfer to. That is the end of video 1. But this is only the beginning of the story. In video 2, we will explore why the system always needs more debt, why interest payments require money that was never created, and why slowing down the debt machine causes everything to deflate. The mechanics are strange, almost paradoxical, but once you understand them, you will never see the financial system the same way again. Subscribe if you want to continue this journey, and I will see you in the next one.